Thank you once again. Welcome to our Sunday service. Shall we start the morning puja? Preliminary homage to the Buddha. Let us pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Offerings. Please put your palms together to partake in the offerings to the Buddha. The offering of the 5 items allows us to express our gratitude to the Buddha and serves as a symbol to help us remember the teachings. Please join in wholeheartedly and read the verses together. Offering of light. Light symbolizes wisdom. May the light of Dharma dispel the darkness of ignorance. Offering of incense. Incense symbolizes the fragrance of pure moral conduct. This reminds us to cultivate good conduct. Offering of water. Water symbolizes purity, clarity, and calmness. It reminds us to practice the Buddha's teachings, to cleanse one's mind, which is full of desires, ill will, and delusion, to attain the state of purity. Offering of fruits. Fruits symbolize the ultimate fruit of enlightenment, which is our goal. They also remind us that all actions will have their effects. Offering of flowers. Flowers symbolize impermanence. The freshness, fragrance, and beauty of flowers are impermanent. This reminds us that we should all live in the present. Remembering thus, we should reduce our craving and attachment. Salutation to the Triple Gem. Let us pay respects to the Triple Gem. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Going for refuge, we chant the verses for taking the 3 refuges. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. The 5 precepts. We chant these verses to observe the 5 precepts. Panyatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Nadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Kame Sumichachara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Sura Meraya Majapamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Recollection of the Buddha. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati satadeva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Recollection of the Dharma. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Dharma. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko opanaiko pachata vetita povinyuhiti. Recollection of the Sangha. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Sangha. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujjupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyāyapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samici patipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Yatitan cattari purisa yugani atta purisa pugala. Esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Huneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punyaketang lokasati. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so now we have the announcements. Next week, we are very honored to have Bhante Buddha Rakita. It's going to be a recorded talk, and he's very kindly agreed to give this talk all the way from overseas, Uganda. So do tune in. The title is Maintaining Both Internal and Social Harmony. Also in January 2022, we start off the Sunday Dharma talks with Sis Sylvia Bay, Wong TaI Wee. Next week, Bhante Buddha Rakita, and then Venerable Upeka and Bhante Silananda. So please do tune in. The DFC course is here. On-site meditation 2022 starts in January, and the Dharma classes will start also in February. It will start in February to April at BF West Dharma Hall. This is a very, very good course for people who want to know about the Dharma and go in depth into the concepts. So please join us. BF Youth and Indonesian Service also have their lineup of activities, so do look at the poster for more details. Indonesian Service is rather special. On the 16th of January, we have Spiritual-Based Relationships by Brother Hasono and Sister June La. January 2022 also sees our BF Junior Youth line up of fantastic activities. We're starting with the orientation camp and other very good talks. Rahula Connects also starts, so please join in. It's an online meeting, so do register. Yin Yoga is here as well. For those who want to do mindful stretching, do sign up. And the happy workout to stave off dementia has also started. It will start on the 8th of January, going on to March. So this is a very, very popular course that has been going on for many years, so do please sign up. And finally, share your favorite sutta. If you have a favorite sutta that you want to share with your friends, do please let us know. A donation is optional. It's optional. So please let us know if you would like to share your favorite sutta. We will do this for free and put it online. Finally, the cookie sale for fundraising, for BF fundraising, for a building fund is here. I have good reviews about the cookies, so do come and buy our cookies and make good merits at the same time. Do go to the website at bfdharmahome.org to have further details on the cookie sales. And finally, help build your Dharma home. These are the ways to donate towards our building fund. So we have PayNow, bank transfer, cash nets or check, monthly gyro. So please have a look at our website at dharmahome.org. And finally, we have today Brother Wong TaI Wee. Today, he's going to talk about generosity during the Buddha's time. So I think it's going to be a very, very, very interesting and illuminating topic because we know the Buddha had a perfect parami in generosity. So let me say a few words about Brother Wong. Brother TaI Wee started to be interested in Buddhism during his early 20s. He has been serving BF since 2006 and is now the Deputy President of BF. In his professional life, he is an IT professional in the healthcare industry, but I think it says very little about what he has contributed to the Dharma. He is very, 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 has a lot of initiative, comes and helps out in activities, organizes activities, runs our Dharma classes as well. So Brother Wong is Brother Wong, fantastic Dharma practitioner, so I'm very, very honored to invite him up to give us a talk today. Let's welcome Brother Wong.
Happy New Year to all of you. Yeah, thanks for coming this morning for the talk. So, and thanks to MC for so generously upgraded my title to doctor. I wish I can be a doctor, right?
Brother TaI Wee, would you like to start with meditation? Or?
Sure, yes. Before we do the talk, maybe let's do a 10, 15 minutes kind of meditation, right? So let's get ourselves ready. So those who are sitting on a cushion, adjust your body posture, make sure they are seated comfortably on the cushions. And those who are sitting on the chair, just make sure that you try not to lean at the back of the chair, the backrest of the chair, to give yourself some space between your back and the backrest of the chair, right? So get yourself ready. Slowly calm down your mind and close your eyes. While we do the meditations, it's very important that we focus here and now, what you're doing. That's more important. So adjust your mind. Slowly tell yourself, you're now going to start your meditation. Whatever happened in the past before you come to this Dharma center, or whatever is going to happen later after you go back home or leave this Dharma center, you leave them aside. What is more important to you now is your meditation. Focus on your meditation in this Dharma hall at this present moment. Once your mind is settled, you now slowly bring your awareness to your body. Feel the surrounding of this Dharma hall. Feel that you're now sitting in this Dharma hall doing your meditation with Dharma brothers and sisters around you. Slowly bring the awareness inward to your body. Feel your physical body sitting on the cushion or on the chair. Starting the awareness of the body from the top of the head, you relax. Relax the top of the head. Slowly bring down the relaxation to your shoulder, your upper back, your chest, lower backs, abdomen. Relax both your arms and hands. Gradually bring down the awareness to your hip, all the way down to your ankle and toe. Relax every single piece of muscle that you can feel at the lower part of the body. In this total relaxed state of the body, you feel that your body is light, gentle, and free from pain. Now slowly bring the awareness to your breath. This will be the subject of meditation that we'll be using for this morning. Focus on the breathing, breathing in and breathing out. Gently and mindfully watch your breath, breathing in and breathing out. There's no need for you to force your breath or control your breath. You just observe mindfully and quietly. Just like how you observe the bird on the tree. You're not going to disturb it. You just watch quietly from a distance. Watching your breath, breathing in and breathing out. As you watch your breath, you may wonder, sometimes your mind will wander around. Thoughts will arise and you lose the focus on your breath. As soon as you realize that your mind is wandered around or wander away from your breath, you just bring it back. Gently and quietly continue to watch your breath. No need to feel agitated or don't have to feel discouraged whenever your mind is wander away. It's pretty natural for those who have not been practicing meditation. So just continue to watch your breath, breathing in and out. As soon as it wanders away, you bring it back. Continuously doing this way of meditation, soon you'll find that you will be able to stay longer in the attention on your breath. Likewise, if you feel that the thoughts start to keep on coming when you're doing your meditation, you just ignore them. Don't have to push them away and don't have to participate in thoughts. Just be aware. Thoughts arises. And soon you'll find that these thoughts will go away by itself. You may now continue to watch your breath slowly and mindfully until the next instruction is given to you. watching your breath, breathing in and breathing out. You may now slowly bring attention to your body again and prepare yourself to come out from this meditation. Slowly feel your body sitting on a cushion and start to feel your surrounding with the Dharma brothers and sisters around you. And next, start to open up your ears and listen to the sound of the bell. After the sound of the bell, you may actually slowly open your eyes and come out from the meditation. Right, welcome back. So let's come back to the topic of the day. So today we're going to talk about generosity during the Buddha's time. Right. So at this beginning of the year, it's always good to talk about some of the key virtues and values that we teach and we share in the Dharma. Right. So generosity is one of very important values that we have been practicing, and the Buddha has been teaching during his time of teaching as well, right? So he has been teaching a lot on generosity. So we all know that generosity actually is not tied to any religion. It's actually secular values. Everywhere we see generosity, right? So this is actually the generosity in today's context, right? In our society, we know the meanings of generosity, right? It's basically to give more than what you can afford generously. To someone who is in need, right? That's in general what it meant, generosity. That's what we understood. And we also understand that generosity actually is one of the key basic human virtues in the world, regardless of religious, regardless of race, regardless of where you are. You definitely can see generosity amongst humans, right? There's a lot of kind acts. People come forward to help people when there's the other person is in need. Especially so actually in the COVID context. Right? So in Singapore, we have seen that a lot of people have come forward to help, to give donations, to help the poor, to help the needy, especially those elderly who cannot come out during the COVID period of times. A lot of volunteers and people have come forward to donate foods, to help to buy food for the seniors. These are all signs and gestures of generosity. So, and these people, they are not Buddhist, right? They are also not Christian or Muslim. Some even don't have any religious belief. So that actually is inborn to us. In the society, we always see generosity, right? For thousands of years before Buddha's time, even until now, it's always there, right? So that is actually one of the key virtues that we have been holding up since beginning, I won't say since the beginning of a human life, but at least many thousand years ago that we know up to today, right, is always there. Now, in today's context, we use generosity also quite loosely as well. Not just through the social behavior, the interaction of people, how we contribute to society. In our day-to-day conversation, interaction with people, we tend to actually use the word generous very often, okay? Especially when you go out to have lunch or with meals with someone, or your colleagues or family, and the hawker store's uncle give you a lot of ingredients to the food, and you happily come back to the table and say that, yeah, this uncle auntie is very generous, right? The word generous is being used because he or she give you a lot of ingredients to your food on the table. So we use generous, right? But to the uncles, maybe he want to actually get more business. That's why he give you more, right? So that's why we actually, always refer to people who give you more than what you expected as very generous, right? And in your normal day life, especially in the couple's daily life, sometimes the wife actually will also make requests, can you be more generous to me in terms of your love or whatsoever? I'm not sure the husband over here have this kind of conversation with your wife. But, for me, my wife always tell me that, can you be more generous with your smile towards me? And because I myself, sometimes when I don't smile, it's quite serious and stern looking. So she always remind me, okay, to be more generous with my smile towards her. Right? So that is also a kind of generous, right? Even though we didn't give money, but through your actions, the word that you use is also a form of generosity. Right? So we don't always tie generosity to material stuff. Later we touch more about that in terms of from Buddhist standpoint, what does it mean by generosity, right? So I'm just referring to the day-to-day layman, non-religious based kind of encounter with generosity. Same thing when we talk to people, we also use a lot of kind words, right? So sometimes in office when we talk to colleagues, especially when you are in the team, when you do have colleagues working under you, we also tend to be have to be generous in terms of the words that we use to encourage the colleagues to do better, right? To contribute more to the work, right? So generous words like encouragement, give praises, give rewards. Those are also a generous act. So in this aspect, we can see that generosity is quite commonly used, commonly seen in our society, right? So it's nothing new, right? Just that how do we actually go one step further to understand it more from a Buddhist standpoint, right? So that is actually the objective for today's teaching. Also, later I'll also be sharing in terms of, in the ancient times, during Buddha's time, how people actually contribute or demonstrate their generosity, right, in the society or towards the Sangha and Buddha. So that is a set the context of today's sessions. Right? So during Buddha's time, in his teaching, he also emphasizes a lot of generosity, right, in the practice. So in one of the very commonly heard sutta, the Mangala Sutta, he also mentioned that to be generous in giving, right, to be righteous in conduct, to help one's relatives, and to be blameless in action, this is the greatest blessing. So one of the greatest blessings is also includes generosity, generous in giving. So that actually also gives us an idea when Buddha gives the teaching, how he actually paid strong emphasis on generosity. Now, in the early days when Buddha was giving teachings, so when the members would come and actually visit him to actually listen to his Dharma talk, very often, according to the records, he actually teach a lot on generosity topics as well. He teach people to be generous, to give, and then once the person is ready, then he actually will move on to actually give more in-depth teaching, right? So that's how the Buddhas actually place strong emphasis on the practice of generosity. Now, from the Buddhist context, what does it mean to us when we talk about generosity? So, as I mentioned earlier, the generosity practice actually is one of the very key components in the Dharma, in the teachings that the Buddha gave, right? And you can also see that in the 10 perfections, right? The pyramids, the very first one actually is generosity, dana, right? So this actually is the virtues of the enlightened beings, right? Of the well-practiced beings. Okay, one of the very key important ingredients is generosity. They need to learn how to give. But if you may look back, giving is a practice, right? But how will it help us or help a person to be perfect in their practice? That actually comes back to the three things that we actually talk about in the Buddhist, the three poisons. What actually ties us down in this samsara world, right, is because of these three things: our greed, our hatred, and our delusion. Okay? Because of these three poisons that actually keep on tying us down, we cannot be liberated. We keep on coming back, right? And we keep on committed a lot of defilements because of all these three things as well. So one of the things that we can actually help to us to cultivate ourselves is to counter these three things, the three poisons. To counter greed, the best way is to use dana, generosity. Because the more you give, the more detached you are. Okay? We are very attached by nature. Attached not to your material stuff, not just to your material stuff, not just to the people around you, your families, your spouse, your kids, not just to yourself, your body, yourself. There are many things that we attach to, right? So we have to learn bit by bit to cultivate the habit of letting go, right? To be able to actually move on in the practice, we need to let go more. So we have to start small. For the start, if you want to let go of yourself, very difficult, right? Because first, we don't know how to. Because we are born in this body, we are grown up in this body, our mind is all conditioned to identify that there is such a person, so and so, right? For example, this is TaI Wee, the body belongs to TaI Wee. We are all brought up in this way, the mind is conditioned that way. So in order to let go of this body, it's very difficult, right? Not many people can do it. So what we can do is, we have to start small, slowly cultivate ourselves to move towards the goal of letting go. So giving is one way. So we have to actually learn how to give. The more you give, the more detached you are. Let's say I like this mouse. If someone like the mouse, who need the mouse more than me, something that I like, I can just let go and give it generously to that person who is in need. I don't have to cling on to the mouse that I have. So that itself will give you one action, one step forward to let go of things that you cling on to. Start with things that, material things that is more distant away from you, right? Then slowly you bring forward, right? Bring forward to yourself. So that's why, in terms of the spiritual practice, generosity actually is one of the very key steps forward, right? The more you give, the more you learn actually to let go. And of course, in the other context, when we look at giving, is that based on the law of karma that Buddhas teach, it's a very complicated topics. I probably will not be able to explain in details on how it works, as what the how the Buddha preached. But in general, what it means is that whatever things, action you take, there is actually a reward that comes from it, right? So if you give someone something, there will be some kind of a rewards you will receive at the end of the day. But that is actually how the law of karma works. But that cannot be the motivation of you to give, to actually to contribute, or to actually to give your donations. Right? It should not be based on that basis that I give because I want something in return. Right? So that actually goes back to the first part that I talked about, how dana or giving can actually help you in your spiritual practice. We should move towards the goal of letting go, right? To counter the greed that ties us down. So the more we practice, the better we are, and the more we are able to actually to move on in our spiritual cultivation. Right? So that's actually why in the Buddhist practice, we emphasize a lot on dana, giving. So in the olden days, when Buddha was around, a lot of people give dana in terms of food. Okay, why so? It's because during that period of time, the monks or the sanghas, actually their focus actually is more to actually to cultivate it themselves, to gain liberation. So all these mundane things, that where to get money to buy food, how to cook the food, decide what to eat, actually is not so important. And in fact, they shouldn't be bothered by all these things, because that will actually affect their cultivation as well. Imagine if a monk or nun during their practice have to worry about the food. In the morning meditation sessions, they may actually start to think, what should I cook for lunch? Right? Where should I get the ingredients to actually cook for the lunch? And whether do I have enough money to buy food? So that becomes a lot of disturbance to their cultivation. Right? So that's why in early days, for monks and nuns, when they practice, they don't have to worry about all these things. And the community is able to provide the kind of environment to support them in terms of food. Right? And that's why whenever the time is up, when the monks go to go alms rounds in the village, people will be willing to give, right, to support the monks. Now, why the people actually want to give to the monks is also because when they offer food to the monks, they will in turn get a lot of merits. We all believe in that, right? And we all also have this belief and motivation as well. That why we give alms? Because I give to 100 monks, hopefully one of them can be Arahant, then the marriage I get will be very good, right? So there are certain benefit by doing so. That's why in this kind of a giving alms practice, in Buddhist country like Thailand, Myanmar, we see it very often. In the city or in the village, the monks will go around, and the villagers will be very happily come out to give donation, giving alms, giving food to the monks and nuns. So that belief of having good luck or good merits is still very strong in today's context. But because of that, you also indirectly prevent people from moving forward from spiritual practice. Why? Because people are clinging on to the idea of give and take. I give you something, I will take back something for you. And the take back something is actually the good marriage. Usually people who give are those who think that I give you, hopefully I can be rich. Because one of the benefits that the Buddha say, if you give donations, you give do a lot of charity works or generous donation, you will become very rich in the next life. Right? So that belief is always there, and that's what is been taught during the Buddha's time. So people actually also tend to actually use that as a motivation to give donation. Right? But unfortunately, that should not be the right way. Right? It's the result is there. Right? We believe that there is such a result, but we cannot be using that as a motivation for us to give donation. Right? So it has to be very clear in terms of why you donate. And yeah, like I say, today in a lot of Buddhist countries, they give alms food to the monks and nuns. It's mainly because of this motivation. You go there and ask 10 out of 10 people who give donation, most likely 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 will say that they donate because they want good fortune, they want good blessing for the family. That is their motivation. Right? So we hope that we as a Buddhist, as we moved on in our practice, we should also start to move forward from there. Not just because that we donate or give alms, it's because of good returns. It's because we want it to help us in our spiritual practice. The more we give, we must be able to let go. Give and not expecting things in return. That is the best way to give. Right? And we should always have cultivate this kind of thinking. Whenever we give, always think that we are giving to support the Sangha members to continue the propagation of Dharma for the benefit of sentient beings, life and life beyond. Right? Not for yourself. Right? That is the good motivation. Right? And we should always do that. And in the early days, during the history records for when Buddha was around, there are many of such people who give because they really have the heart to give. Later, I touched on 2 examples on these 2 great patrons of Buddha and the Sangha, then how they actually motivate themselves to give. Right? So that should be the motivation when we give food or give donation to the Sangha members or to the monastery. Right? And the things about returns we talk about, so it's really the law of karma. Whatever you donate, you donate out of good heart, you definitely have a good return. Right? So that's where we come to the next point. How do we practice as a Buddhist, right? So when we practice the giving, like I said earlier, the motivation is very important, right? Why do you want to give? So when we give, in this context that we're going to talk about here, there are basically 3 components to complete a transaction of giving, right? There's a giver, the person who gives. There's a recipient, the person who received the gift. And there's a gift that you want to give, right? So these are 3 things. Only these 3 components are there, then we can say that there is a complete giving, right? So as a giver, when you give, it's very important. I mentioned that when you give, you must give with the right motivation, right intention. So the mind must be clear in terms of why you give, right? And you must give with the pure intention, not give because you want to get something back in return. And in some cases, people give because they are under pressure. My friends give $10,000, so I must give $50,000. right? Just to show that I'm better than your friend. Now that motivation is strong also, right? You should not be using competition to show off your wealth as part of the motivation for giving. And when we give as a giver, the other very important things that we need to take note of is that how we give. In today's context, giving is very simple. Someone wants to raise money to build a monastery, right? If you want to give, someone will come to you and ask for money, right? So you can actually give the money to the person and then donate on your behalf. So that means you are giving through another parties to do it. So that means you are not directly involved in the giving. You can be, it can be in the context where someone comes to you and asks for money for donation. You give without having this pure intention being generated. Right? You just give without having this thought that, yeah, I want to help. Right? So you just, someone talk to you and say, okay, as a very habitual kind of way, okay, I will give. Right? But you don't give directly to the person, you give through another party, right? Or sometimes you just give, okay, I get $1,000, I give to someone, you help me to decide what to donate. That's a very common practice. So this kind of a donation, though it's meritorious, but it may not be as effective because your intention actually is that, okay, you have intention to give, but when you do it, you don't do it yourself. You actually ask someone to do it for you. So that itself actually may not be so good in terms of the merits, but it's also a form of good kind gesture because your intention is to help, right? But how you do it is also play a part. So compared to if you have $1,000 and someone, you want to make a donation, you go to that organization and donate yourself in person. That is actually more meaningful, right? And it also show more sincerity. Your sincerity in giving the donation is also very important. Right? So that's one part that usually we need to take note, because sometimes it's very common nowadays that I give you some money and then you decide what you want to do for me. Right? So it's like outsourcing. You outsource your donation to a third party. Yeah, so that not ideal, right? So yeah, that comes back to sincerity. Like you must be sincere in giving, right? And the last thing that you have to take note as a donor is that the manner of giving, right? You must give with respect. That's why when we go and see how people give alms round in the Buddhist community, when they give the food, they usually kneel. They take off their slippers, their shoes. Okay, they kneel down and give respectfully to the monks who come on their way. They don't stand and give, because you stand and give actually you are not respect, because your ego is very high. So when we give, we have to be humble in giving, right? So we give with two hands. We don't give with one hand. Right? So nowadays, when we deal with the kids, right, in the class, we notice that a lot of kids actually, when they ask them to pass you something or give you something, always one hand. Right? Not very good in terms of politeness point of view, right? Also in terms of respect point of view, it's always good to give in two hands. So even if you come to the counter, BF counter to make donation, right? It's always good to give it. If you have money to give it to us, give it in two hands. Right? That is actually a form of respect. One hand is very rude, right? So these are the small things that we don't really realize in our daily life. But as we go along, we should actually be more mindful in our way that how we give, right? So that is actually more for your own spiritual cultivation as well. Because when you are able to lower down your ego, give respect to people when you give to the recipient, that itself is a kind of practice already, right? You learn how to respect. So in terms of recipient, we also have to be careful. Who is the recipient who receive your gift? Now, there are many organizations out there that says that I need to raise funds to build monastery, to build centers. But those organizations, are they genuine? Okay, there are many centers who claim that they are genuine, religious center, right? But actually, they may not be so. The motivation may not be correct for the center to actually to build the center, right? So their objective is really to get money from you. So you also have to be careful. I don't want to be very specific to that because it's a bit sensitive, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when we give to parties, the recipient also have to be careful whether this recipient is genuine or not. Okay, a good example is that in Singapore, some years back, you see that there are monks standing around in the hawker center asking for money. Okay, they follow the timing of the Buddhist practice. Right? Before noon, they'll go around the hawker center asking you for alms round. And the interesting is that when you give him food, he will not take. You say that give him money, right? So this kind of a person, the recipients, do you think that you should give them the money too? Today, are they worth to receive the donation that you give to them? Answer is no, right? Because the intent use of the donation gift that you give them is actually not right, right? Because they're just trying to be there to cheat money. So in that situation, even though you don't give the money to the monks, the bogus monk who actually want to take money from you, right? It's actually okay for you. It's not that we are disrespecting the Sangha, right? Because this is not the right way to give, and not the right recipient to receive the gift. So when we give, we also have to apply wisdom. Okay, who do we give to? Right? So if let's say the monk is really doing a lot of charity work and do a lot of goods and in Dharma propagation, right? Like for example, Ajahn Brahm. We all know that Ajahn Brahm has spent a lot of effort and time to help to propagate the Dharma. So he is building retreat centers. So this kind of recipients, we should give generously because it's for the good of sentient beings. Right? It's for them to help them to develop their spiritual cultivation. So we should support this kind of recipient. Okay? So who to give is also very important. Right? Now, the last one, in terms of how to actually give, is actually to choose the most appropriate and generous gift that one that can afford. Very often when we donate things to others people, quote example during the tsunami's time. I'm not sure you all recall during the tsunami's period, when a lot of countries are being affected, they call for donations. A lot of people generously donated, right? But what happened is that there are also a lot of people trying to take the opportunity to clear stock. All the old clothing that you don't want, old furniture you don't want, all donated. And you treat it as a donation. But your intention is wrong. The recipient is correct, because there are people in need. The recipient is correct. Your intention is wrong because you want to clear stock. And the items you donate is also not too correct. Even, okay, if you donate clothes like T-shirt, all these are still okay. But there are some people who donate wedding gowns, right? How on earth will victims of tsunamis is going to wear wedding gowns, right? So it's a bit too much, right? So we have to be very careful in terms of what we give as well, right? So that's why if your intention is good, the items you donate usually will be very reasonable, okay? And sometimes that we give items also have to be very careful as well. You have to give within your means. There are people who have good intention to give, pure intention, good targeted recipient to receive the goods, but you can't afford. And you go beyond your capabilities actually to make the kind of donation. And what's the consequence of that? It costs you a lot of issues, right? So we also have to be very wise in terms of what you give. Say, for example, there's a tsunami, right? So you want to donate. You are very, very kind-hearted and very generous, want to donate. If you want to donate $10,000 and your bank account only got $5,000, and you're going to borrow money, $5,000 from your friends who just top up to make the 10,000 donation, and later you have to pay back the money to your friends, right? Or to your relatives. Your family suffer, you suffer. That itself is also not a very wise way of donation. So when we do donation, it must always be within your means. Okay? Protect yourself, protect your loved one. So Buddha also mentioned that in one of the teachings that when you donate, you must also make sure that you donate and take care of your people around you. Right? Don't overcommit in your donation. Now, the things that we donate also be careful. In terms of appropriateness. Okay, appropriateness I mentioned about it. The timing of giving. You must give at the right time, right? Sometimes the timing is not right. You give is also no use. The other side will not be able to receive it, right? So must be careful in terms of all these things. So these are the three things that we should take note as we do donation or we do dana. You must be careful in terms of what's your intention. That's very important. Who is the recipient who received it? And of course, thirdly is that the items that you give must be appropriate and within your means. Right? So if we follow these three areas of focus in terms of how you give, that will actually will help us to cultivate more, and the merits that we get, of course, you'll be multiplied. Right? So it's not just because of merits, but the returns. Sometimes when we give, we also make sure that we do it properly, right? So that the end result is actually good for both parties. Right? Now, in terms of givings wise, there are many ways of givings. We can give things like material stuff, which we talk about, money, clothing, right, etc. This is what we normally see. But there are also other ways of giving that we can give as well, not necessary to be a material stuff. Things like, for example, giving a service, right? Like our volunteers here have been here every week, providing their service in terms of time and technical skills to help us to actually to run this Dharma talk. That itself is a great giving, right? Even better than giving money, right? Because that is actually to help the propagation of Dharma. Right? So whatever contribution you give to help in the propagation of Dharma, there is also a very good merits in there as well, right? So, and the last thing that we actually can give is actually to give the protections of the people from fear, right? So to give them the comfort, the confidence that they can walk the spiritual path, right? So especially so in the olden days when monks or novice monks who actually get ordained, when they go around and get and practice, they don't have to worry about food, they don't have to worry about shelter, because all this will be provided for by the community, the lay community, right? So that gives them the assurance. It removes them the fear in their practice, and that's where they can cultivate and progress, right? So that is also a very good way of giving giving danas, right, as well. So yeah, these are three things, not always in terms of material stuff that we always think of, right? And over here, in terms of the how we do a practice as a Buddhist in terms of giving, these are things actually we just have to take notes, right? So of course there are actually many things that people talk about. The more you give, actually, the more you give, you'll become more confident. Then people will be more respecting towards you, right? All these are things that actually will come along the way, which we are not going to focus on, right? Important things on how to do it right and how we do it wisely. That's more important, right? So when whatever we do, we must always cultivate the wisdom of doing that. So once we actually are into it already, slowly we'll start to realize that the attachment to the material stuff around us and things around us will start to slowly reduce, right? Now, one thing before I forget, when we give, the mental state is very important, right? So I talked about motivation. When you give already, don't regret. Okay? A lot of people give already after that, wow, heart pain. Right? I give $100,000 away, then after that I feel heart pain. Once you have this heart pain mentality, the thoughts come to you, all the merits will be gone. So don't have to be careful. The mental state that you give, before you give, your mental state, what's your motivation? During the giving, what's your mental state? You must give with joy, with sincerity, right? And after giving, also very important. After giving already, you should rejoice, okay? And not to regret. So that's important. Yeah. So that mental state, from here you can see that a simple things like giving, there are so many things that we have to take note of, right? In terms of your own mental mind state, right? The awareness of yourself. So there is a lot of things that we can learn from there through a simple act of giving, right? So just take note, mental state, the motivation is important before, during, and after of your giving, right? So with that, I move on to some example in terms of during the Buddha's time, the great donors during that time. Now, there were many donors there, but these are the two that it's been highlighted. They are the chief donors, but they donate a lot to the Buddha. Okay, Anathapindaka. Okay, so Anathapindaka is actually a very famous merchant during the Buddha's time. He's very rich, very wealthy, okay, own a lot of properties and have a lot of wealth. So he is a great disciple of the Buddha. Okay, one of those actually lay disciple, right, who respected the Buddha a lot. So he came across Buddha in this city called Savatthi, right, when Buddha was around there. So he visited Buddha, and I mean there was a story that says that he went to visit a cousin in Savatthi, and then the cousin told him that the enlightened one is in the city. He was so rejoiced and happy and wanted to meet the Buddha. So they arranged to meet the Buddha the next day. So that night he couldn't sleep, he was so overjoyed. So before the first light, he actually started to walk towards the Buddha's place and started to look for Buddha and try to meet him. So along the way, he got lost and he couldn't find the way and got frightened. He wanted to go back. But somehow some yakka encouraged him, tell him that push on, go and look for Buddha in that direction. So he finally met the Buddha. And the thing that he first impressed him is that Buddha actually called him by his last name. Right? So normally people know him as Anathapindaka, okay? But Buddha actually called his last name, not even knowing him, meeting him before. Right? So that even gave him more confidence in the practice of the Buddha, and he wants to help him. So along the way, then he started to do a lot of dana to the Sangha members and the Buddha. And one day he told the Buddha that he wanted to donate a monastery for the Buddha to stay and the Sangha to stay so that they can use that monastery to practice and propagate the Dharma. Very noble thoughts, right? Out of compassion, out of great pure heart. Okay, his intention was right. So, and Buddha agreed to accept the gift. So once Buddha accepted the gift, he went to look for a place. And he found this place in this Savatthi city. He found a place, a very nice, peaceful garden. And unfortunately, the garden belongs to a prince during then, the Prince Jeta. Right? So that prince doesn't want to sell the land because he owns it and he wants it. So he gives a very difficult request and says that if you can fill this plot of land with coins, gold coins, then I'll sell it to you, this whole plot. And it's a very big plot of land. I don't know exactly how big is it, but it's very big. So, and that merchant, because of the pure intention, the pure heart to actually to help to build a monastery, he agrees. So what he did is that he took out all his coins, all the golds from his from the household, and then he lay out. Cut by cuts, they lay the coins. And the prince was very surprised to see that, right? The kind of devotion that a person has in donating the money, the wealth to help the Buddha to build a monastery. So he get a bit curious. So he paid attention to that, and when the loads of cuts, loads of the gold coins are all filled up, unfortunately there's still a small plot of land that cannot be covered. So, but by then the prince was very touched by the act of the merchant, and he decided to give it up. He gave the land to the merchants for him to build, and he also helped to actually to build, fence out the areas, to help to fence out the area to actually to protect the area as well, right? So he became also a follower of the Buddha as well. So that is how devoted a person can be in terms of giving out his wealth to help to propagate the Dharma and Buddha Dharma to the Buddha as well. So after the monastery was built, I think not long after that, the story goes that this merchant met a mishap. There was a big flood in the area, and all his wealth was being swept away. I think the wealth then being, I think, gold or livestock. So he became broke. So he became a poor person who lived in poverty. But his devotion in donation, giving to the Buddha and supporting the Sangha, still stays. Even though he's poor, he don't have enough to eat, he still be able to actually to come up with some food to actually to give to the Sangha, to offer to the Buddha. Right? And at one point, he was telling the Buddha that because of his situation, he's not able to contribute and as nice food as before. But when the Buddha received those food that's actually not as good as before from him, okay, he's very happy, and he actually tell the merchants that it's not the matter of what kind of quality of food that you give to the Buddha or the Sangha. It's your intention, right? And also how much you can give. You're actually giving the best to your ability, right? That is more important, right? So that also have a lot of merits as well. So from here we can see that what we give doesn't really matter. As long as you give the right intention to the best of ability, is also is worth a gift to the recipient. So soon after that, because of his kind and generous actions, he accumulated a lot of merits. And soon after that, for some reason, he managed to get back his wealth. And the wealth that he got back is more than what he lost, right? And he became wealthy again. Right? So that is actually story goes in terms of how people during then, their devotions, their intention to help goes beyond, right, their own personal interest. And something that we can learn from there as well when we do giving. So as a very generous person, very kind-hearted person, he does a lot of good deeds. So in old age, when he passed away, he was reborn into this Tusita heaven as one of the Deva, right? So a good merit who get achieved, good result. So that is actually in terms of the story of this Anathapindaka, right? Who is a male chief patron of the Buddha during then. Now, to be fair to the ladies, it's not only the man who actually can contribute to a lot of donation during then, the female also can do that as well. So there is another chief patron who is a female, by the way, Visakha. So she is a very, very rich lady in India during then, right? A special lady. Also quite what my understanding is that in the ancient times, for a woman to be that rich is something that's very special. But usually in that ancient time, women are not, in terms of level, actually the class level actually is not as great as the men, right? So men usually take care of all the business. But in this case, this woman is able to actually take control of the business, has her own way of doing things. So someone who must be very capable, very respectable person. And because of that, the Buddha actually trusted her to look after the nuns, the nun sangha. And if there's any issues with the nuns face, she can come in to help to mitigate and manage the issues, right? And if there's a monks and nuns issue, she is also representing the nun as well. So that shows that how capable she is and how the Buddha trusted her, right? And other than her ability, she also contributed a lot to the Buddhist community as well during then. So she is also another person who donated another monastery. This monastery is called Puparama Monastery. I couldn't find any interesting story about this, how she built the monastery. So just know that she built the monastery. How she did it, I'm not too sure how she did it. Right? So, So in that place, Savasti, there are two very famous monasteries. One donated by the male merchants, the other one donated by female merchants, right? So these are two monasteries. So the other important things about this lady, interesting thing about this lady is that she is also a very well-practiced lay person. When she married to a family, the father-in-law is actually a miser, right, who is very stingy in giving. So he doesn't believe in giving danas or giving alms to the monks. So one day when the monks came by their house, the father was eating, and the father just ignored the monks. The monks stand at the door, and he ignored him because he doesn't want to give food. So when Visakha actually saw this, she quickly went over to the monks and politely tell the monk to actually move on to the next house. And she said, "I'm sorry that we cannot offer you any food because my father-in-law is eating stale food. They mean food that is actually not fresh and very, not very good food to eat, basically, right?" So when the father-in-law heard this, he was very upset and confronted her. "Why are you saying that I'm eating stale food? I'm such a rich person, I got nice food on the table." Then she explained to her patiently and says that because you're only focused on what you have today, we are not building on to your future contribution. That means your You are not accumulating merits for your wealth to be continued. Yeah? You only focus on what you have. So that's why your food is still, right? So then from there, the father started to learn something, right? And slowly, she tried to lead the fathers to learn more about Dharma. And soon the father actually became a very devoted Buddhist as well because of that. And as a result of that, he's so grateful to Visakha, the daughter-in-law, and he even called her the mother. So that's why Visakha actually have a different name during then. It's called, I can't see a name, Mikara's mother, right? Okay, Mikara's Mata. Mata is actually, during then, Mata means mother, right? So that's how she get the name Mikara Mata, right? It's because the father-in-law was so grateful to her that even call her as a mother, right? So that's the story about Visakha. So because of Visakha's great contribution, donation, and generosity to the community, she also enjoyed a very long life. She had many children and many grandchildren, right? So that is actually her own merits for that, right? So I probably will stop here in terms of story. I will now move on to the last part of the talk. That is donation to Buddhist Dharma Home. So as I mentioned earlier, the donation actually is that we give is very important, right? Our mental state, the recipient, and the type of gift that we give. So in Buddhist Fellowship, what we are doing now is that at this stage of a Buddhist Fellowship journey, we are looking into building our own buildings. For those who are not familiar with BF, we have not had any building before. All this while, we actually rented office space, halls like this, to conduct our Dharma talk. Right? So that actually sort of restrict us in terms of the things that we do, in terms of our Dharma propagation work. We wanted to do more Dharma classes for the adult, for the young one, but because of the space constraint, we cannot grow. So that's why we hope that with the new building, we will be able to actually have more space for us to expand our Dharma propagation activities. And at the same time, we will be able to focus more on things that we do for Dharma propagation, and not so much to worry about the properties, where will we be in the next few years, right? So all this worry we can put aside. We don't have to worry. We just focus on what we are supposed to do as a Buddhist organization. So that was actually the intent of why we are going to have our own new buildings, right? Now, because to build new buildings at this stage is not going to be simple. Everything, the price increase, the material price increase, the property price increase, is going to be a long journey for us to actually to go towards this direction, to have our own building. And we definitely need a lot of financial support, right? I'm not here to actually to do marketing sales pitch, but I'm just trying to continue with the topics of generosity so that we all understand how we can contribute. At the same time, we take the opportunity to actually to share this opportunity with everyone here to actually to plant a very good karmic seed into your spiritual practice, so that hopefully will give you more support in your spiritual cultivation in your future life, right? Or this and future life. So the BF buildings, we are already at the stage of actually we have identified a location. So now actually next stage of actually to see how we actually can raise fund. Okay, the details will be shared during the general meetings. Right? So as I say, a lot of fund is required, and we are going to do a lot of fundraising activities. So we really hope that all the members here who join BF activities, or even your friends, can come forward to actually help us to build this Dharma home. Right? And this Dharma home will benefit a lot of people. If we have a more stable home, a bigger place, we will be able to actually to provide more Dharma propagation activities to the communities. Right? At the same time, we can also actually help other Buddhist organizations as well. So in the past few years, BF has also been helping other Buddhist organizations in terms of offering our space that we have not used. If let's say there are vacant space slot that we have, we can actually offer to them to let them use it to conduct their own activities. So that's one of the community works that we do. So do take note of this. We have a website specially designed to help to propagate, to share the information about this project and also to provide a channel for members to make donation. So feel free to go to our website, bfdharmahome.org, and there's a donation functions there as well. You can donate according to the items. We actually do have a donate to the pillars, to the bricks, or even donate pure cash. Yeah, feel free to do so as well, right? So yeah, that's all I have to say about the BF Dharma Home. So I really appeal for your generosity in this BF project, to hope to have all your support. Right. So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Brother TaI Wee. And thank you for that fantastic talk about generosity. And I just want to add that it was from Buddhist Fellowship that I learned to be generous. Not that I'm very generous, but I learned to be a bit more generous from Buddhist Fellowship.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And I learned from brothers here also that also gyro donation is also very important. I used to think that it wasn't important because I used to think that if I give a gyro donation every month, I would forget about it, and then I wouldn't think of it as a part of my mental cultivation or endowment for my mind because I would have forgotten about it. But brothers here have reminded me how important it is because it is the gyro donations that keep the center going and that people do come here for Dharma practice and learn to be more generous and to develop their minds and to become better people. So that's why the gyro is so important. So I want to thank actually Buddhist Fellowship for teaching me to be a bit more generous than I was. So thank you, Brother TaI Wee. I think that was very touching. Are there any questions? Any questions from the floor? Thank you, Sis Kat. She's got a question.
Thank you, Brother TaI Wee, for the very good talk. I have always got this question in mind. Very often when we come across in the MRT station or even on the crossway, we see a lot of people. They are on a wheelchair or they are somehow or other they're selling tissue papers. And we wanted to help. Let's say we want to be generous and help them in their livelihood and all. But there are some cases that we also heard or we also feel that there's some syndicate behind. When we give them the money, they don't actually get the money to help themselves. But instead, you can also see that there's one or two persons behind them that's looking out. So how do you feel about this type of situation that is always happening in everyday life? And the other one is also that when we are at this pilgrimage in this India, you see across the whole street itself are all the children beggars. And all these are all, as we know, they are syndicates. Because somehow we heard that their legs and hands are being broken so that they can get these tourist people to come and donate generously towards them. But if we give, we have got this conscious mind that we're actually helping the syndicate. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks, Sister Kat. That's a very good question. Yeah, I do come across this kind of situation as well, especially in the first example that you asked about people in the wheelchair going around selling tissue papers, right? How do we know they are genuine? Right? So that the three things, right? The recipients, are they genuine recipient? So sometimes it's very hard to determine, right? So it really depends on you as a giver doing that. If you know that this is not genuine, because just as Sister Kat mentioned, sometimes they notice that there are people around these people on wheelchair, the less fortunate one, and keep a lookout for them. That actually give us signs that it's suspicious, right? Then if that is the case, we can choose not to give, right? So because the more we give, the more we encourage this kind of activity, which is not good as well. So it also causes a very bad it has a very bad karmic effect on the other parties, because they're actually using this human weakness of kindness to actually to cheat money. Right? The cheating actually is not good. So we should not encourage that as well. If we know, right? But sometimes we don't know. If we don't know, then we just give based on our own intention, right? Because it can be a genuine case, right? My personal experience is that in the place I used to work in, there's a hawker center. There's always an auntie going around selling tissue paper, and this auntie every day she will come, and every 1-2 hours she'll go around, right? So from a look at it, you may think that is it a genuine case or is it a syndicate? How come she works so hard to donate money? Okay, so first few time I give because it looked genuine. Then as I start to wonder whether should I give, so I pause for a while. I actually observe for a period of time before I start to give her again. I realized that actually it's a genuine case because I also hear colleagues among us that they also know about this lady. She actually comes from a poor family, so need financial help. So that's how she make this as her livelihood, so-called her livelihood, to go around selling tissue paper to get money for the family or for herself. And she also have a lot of illnesses as well. I can see from the physical appearance that she's not physically very well. So yeah, that is our own assessment. So we can actually assess, once we confirm that this is the person that we can help, then of course as and when we will contribute to help this group of people, right? But if you know that it's not genuine case, we should stop it, right? So that is actually the first scenario. The second one in India, yeah, I also visited India before. That scene of children crowding around you sometimes can be quite overwhelming, right? We know that these are the kids that they are under syndicates. It's very clearly actually syndicate because they are always positioned at the tourist place, and they know where exactly the busload of people will come. They know exactly what to say, right? So these kind of things are, if you ask me, I would discourage us from giving, right? Because the more you give, the more this syndicate will grow, right? And end of the day, who benefit from it? It's not the kids who benefit from it. It's actually the syndicate, the mastermind behind it who get the benefit from it. So you are not giving it to help the people, but you're giving money to someone who don't deserve it in the first place. So under that circumstance, we should not be doing that. I elaborate on that example. My wife and I was there many years ago, and there's one period of time my wife stayed there for a while. So she wanted to help this kid. I hope I got the permission to say this. Okay. Okay. She wanted to help these kids. And she actually tried to work with the monastery around the area to bring this kid to schools. Because there are schools around. Right? But at the end of the day, no matter how they do, they can't get it to right. Because the kids don't want to go to the school. Or the parents don't want to send the kids to the school. They want them to be out the street begging for money. Because that one, to them, actually will earn money for them, for the family. And probably they're also under the control of syndicate, very hard to do so as well. So there are a lot of restrictions in that society under that circumstance. So even though the kids, whether the kids want to go to school, that's a different story. If they really want to go to school, there may be an external factor that prevent them from going to school. Right? So India is a bit tricky. Yeah, I would say. So as far as we can, we should not be encouraging that by giving money to the kids on the street. So I know that's very hard. It's a very hard decision to make because right in front of you, you are seeing that a small girl carrying a baby, a few months baby crying and say that they need money to feed the baby. And if you don't give, very hard to do it. Right? Very hard not to give. Right? I also struggle. Yeah. But if let's say in certain cases like we can not doing it, we try not to do it, so that we will prevent this thing from happening. Because otherwise it becomes a vicious circle. Right? You will never stop. I don't think anything can be done to improve on that in India. Yeah, that situation is quite tough. Yeah. But I think there are other countries who are also doing quite well. I remember many years ago in Hong Kong, we see a lot of people also under syndicated cases. You can see beggars on the street begging for money, leg broken or something like that. So I was told it's also under a syndicate group as well. But with the effort of the government and also the public, people stop giving and the government actually start to clamp down. This thing hardly see in Hong Kong nowadays. At least the last trip that I went there, I don't see it. Yeah. So these are things that we as a responsible or wise donor, we can help to prevent to help other people to actually to stop committing all the negative karmas. Right? Yeah. I hope that answered the questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother TaI Wee. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Brother TaI Wee. Thanks for the morning. My name is YC. We met last week. Yeah. Hi. I have one point and then one question. Yeah. So the first point is, a few years ago, I was with my mother at Waterloo Street, Simalu. So she was just out of compassion buying a packet of tissue. In the end, she got $50 or $100 taken away because she was just observing which note to take for the $2, and that happened, which is one of the disabled tissue sellers there. So we got around that after some time. So it's a bit like, would you rather not perform the initial action, or or you want to be kind of feeling very tight, to prevent certain incidents like that from happening again. So we struggled on that for a while, but eventually we got over it and it was fine. Yeah, so that was a first point or incident that I want to mention. My second question is a bit similar to the sister there. In terms of a more macro scale for organizations, so sometimes we also ponder upon issues like maybe certain charity organizations, not necessarily religious, but on the charity side, some are very well supported by the government, they got allocation, and they can maybe even do big events, and sometimes it can go a little bit overwhelming. Or some people say, perhaps we should choose very small organizations with few people, very few people on the team to sort of maximize the effect of your dollars to help people. So we discuss this quite often with friends and family. I just want to kind of raise that and listen to your views. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, brother, for the questions. So if I could understand, what we are commenting is that in terms of the big organization who do fundraising for charity work, right? They spend all the money on marketing and all the events, right? And as compared to a smaller organization who actually don't spend all the marketing effort and also asking for money, so which one should we be helping, right? If you ask me, I would say both, right? So reason why both is because end of the day, if you look at the target recipient, so these two organizations, I presume they're all genuine. These two organizations, they are helping the needies, right? The people who need, like elderly or poor family. And we all know that money will go to that the people who benefit, the beneficiaries. So that actually addressed the point on recipient. It's good. Then yourself, the motivation, the one I can trust that every one of us actually give will have a good intention. So now it's actually how to give, right? So how to give, there are many ways actually to give money. Looking at big organizations who spend a substantial amount of money in marketing, like TV shows, marketing materials, the one is understandable because in order to actually get money in, you need to spend some money, some investment, so-called investment, to actually to propagate, right? To tell people that there's such a needs that we need to raise money. So unavoidably there will be some cost involved. But the cost spend must be reasonable. So I believe in Singapore, they're very strict in that, especially those under IPC. Whatever donation that you get, you cannot spend more than X%, I can't remember exactly the numbers, X% on this kind of activities, right? So let's say 80-20, right? So whatever 20%, whatever marketing material they spend, a cost they spend, cannot be more than 20%. That means the cost of fundraise. And the amount of the fund you raise, 80% must go to that beneficiaries. It cannot be used on other thing else. So that, one good thing about Singapore is that the IPC structure is very strict. And it's a very safe environment. It creates a very safe environment for us to make donation. Right? So we can rest assured that money goes to this organization, will go to the right recipient. So that part, that's the reason I would say that we can contribute and support. Of course, for the smaller one, we must take care of the smaller one as well. Especially those without IPC status. But one thing about smaller one, the challenge is that how do we know that it's genuine? So that one we have to do our background check, right? So a good example is BF. Okay? BF is small. We don't have IPC, right? So, but we are very genuine, very sincere group of people that try to help to propagate Dharma, right? So if let's say you want to donate to BF, you just do a check on BF, whether things that we do you think that's right? If it's right, yeah, then you can support, right? So that's what I want to say in terms of these, the comments, the questions that you have, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Brother TaI Wee. And I want to add that VF works on a skeletal crew. One person, Sister Eileen, Brother Chiao, Sis Michelle, a skeletal crew. So thank you. We are small, but we are power-packed. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Any from the AV group? Okay, Brother TaI Wee, I think that's all the questions we have. I also want to add that our BF Dharma Home website is up. I'm not sure whether you want to talk a bit about it.
Oh, sure, I can. If I can have sometimes we'll do some marketing sales. Okay, this one is free marketing, right? So, right. So BF. As I mentioned earlier, we are building this BF Dharma Home projects, and there is a website specially designed for it. So in this website, we want to make it interactive. So we will use our website to share information of our project, the progress. So over there, you can see that the motivation why we want to start, and also give some background about the BF, just to actually let people know that we are genuine, right? Because we are not IPC registered, and we are relatively small. I won't say that we are very small, but okay, not big enough, right? So, but this actually is the problem that we have, because we don't have this visibility like big organization like Kwame Shan, right? So we want to help. We want to actually raise money. So that's why we use these all channels. Website is one of the channels that we use to tell members that, okay, or even the public, that this is the project, and in the website we have create a channel for us to collect donations. So the donation actually comes in two forms. Once you actually can donate cash, which is the simplest thing, right? You donate cash for this BF project. The other way is that we do have categories of items that you can pledge. I would say pledge. You actually can donate to. Like for example, when we build buildings, we need a lot of bricks, right? So it's one of the should I say marketing gimmicks? Okay. One of the ways actually to make the donation more meaningful is that you donate to something that you can visualize. Like for example, you donate to a piece of bricks, right? Every bricks costs about $100. Right? So you donate one bricks. That though it's a small amount, but collectively the bricks can build a building, right? And the amounts that you donated to it will be amount that we can use to actually to fund the building, right? So even though the amount is small, but we are looking at collective effort. Thanks for the pictures. Like this, you can see clearly. So we have the bricks. We also have a pillar, right? Any building actually requires a pillar as well. So we do also have a pillars that you can donate to. Right? Let's say you want to donate, say how much is it? I can't see. $1,000, yeah. Sorry, bricks 100. The pillar is 1,000. So let's say you want to donate 1,000. To make 1,000 more symbolic and more meaningful, you can actually donate it to the pillar. You also make a very good a very meaningful thing to do as well, because a pillar can also symbolize that the Dharma, right? We have the Dharma as a pillar to actually to help you to develop spiritually, right? So that actually, if you feel more resonant to that, you can donate to the pillar, right? Rather than just give $1,000 cash, right? The next one actually is the Buddha niche, right? So if let's say you still want to actually to have a different way of visualization or a different way of affiliation too, you can actually donate to Buddha niche as well. This one actually is how much is it? $10,000. Okay. So though we are not so prone to rituals, right? Because BF actually is supposed to be less in rituals, but we do see that there are certain symbolic things actually to help members remember of their loved one, right? So I'm not sure do you all attend the talks by Sister Silver Bay during the 31st December, right? The memorial service. So she made a very good point that the departed relatives that you have is able to receive your merits, the offerings that you make, right? Even though they are in a different realm, right? And she also quoted examples that Buddha actually did mention that whatever donation they give in this world, right, in this realm, on behalf of departed, they are able to receive it and they are able to benefit from it. Right? So that is actually a very good way to do as well in terms of the Buddha niche. Right? If you have someone who has passed on and you want to dedicate the marriage to them so that they have a good marriage to actually to go for a better reborn, you can actually donate to this Buddha niche. Right? That's an avenue. Right? Rooms and libraries. Okay, so any buildings will need rooms and libraries, right? VF, we have libraries. The libraries actually is to keep all the collections of books so that members can borrow the books and learn more about the Dharma. We also provide some conducive environment for people to read if they like to, right? So that's also one of the Dharma propagation activities that we have in BF as well. Rooms actually are meant for activities. We do conduct classes for the young one. How many of you have kids here? Okay, 1, 2, yeah. So for those who have kids, you will know that the kids like to run around, right? So every Sunday, pre-COVID, when we conduct Sunday schools, we have a hard time because the noise caused by the kids and the running around, they need a lot of space. So we only have a room that's upstairs today. So we are thinking of expanding the class, but we can't expand because of the space constraint. We thought of using the Sangha room here. At one point, we do conduct class here. Then, unfortunately, we got a lot of complaint from here, this Dharma hall, that when the talk is going on, the kids actually make a noise. So it actually disrupts the talk. So these are the challenges that we face. So in the new buildings, we hope that actually to have a better room construct so that it actually can provide a more conducive environment for the kids to learn and actually to also have fun as well, right? We just don't want the kids actually to come here and feel very bored. We want to have fun as well. So that room is important, right? So we are also appealing that if you want to donate the rooms for us actually to conduct Dharma activities, there is also another avenue as well, right? So we will provide, there's no price tag to the room. Reason is because the room usually need more money. So you can actually come and contact us. Then we can discuss in terms of how much the room is required, right, for that donation. And of course, there are also other two areas that we're donating. You can donate to. One is the Dharma hall, and the second one is actually the Buddha relics chamber. Right? You can see that we do have a Buddha relics over here. So in the new buildings, we're going to have a very nice Buddha relics chamber being built up. Right? So it's a form of respect, also for members actually to pay respect to the relics as well. So relics is important because these are the relics of the enlightened beings. Right? So it does give us a lot of motivations, right, to help us to actually get connected to the Dharma. And then by having the relics here, it always remind us that the Buddha is real, right? It's not just the statues. We even have their relics, right? So that gives us more confidence to actually to practice and walk the path in the Dharma. Right? So the relics chamber is one area that you can donate to as well. And likewise, the Dharma hall. Right? Dharma hall, without saying, Dharma hall is definitely a very important place to donate to because this is the place where all the Dharma propagation, the meditation retreats are being conducted. So it does give a lot of benefit to the recipient at the end of the day. Right. Oh yes, one more thing before I forget. Sangha room on-site, yeah. So even though BF, we don't have resident monks, but sometimes we do have monks that come from overseas to conduct talks or activities for us. We need to house them somewhere, right? So the Dharma room en suite actually is meant for that purpose, mainly for Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahmali, right? Those who come from overseas come to BF. So if we have an en suite room for them, it will be very convenient for them, right? Everything will be well taken care of. So they don't have to worry about moving around, and everything will be well taken care of in the Dharma Center. So all in one, right? So that's why the en suite is also form a very important functions in the BF building structure as well. Right? So we hope with all these facilities that we put in place, it can really provide a very integrated buildings. Everything can be run within the buildings, and also provide the environments, conducive environments for us to conduct our activities and for the members to practice the Dharma. Right? Just to share that we are also looking at having some kind of a meditation area. So there'll be an area that we actually can set aside for members who are interested in meditation to do their meditation, right? The meditation Dharma room, right? Yeah. So that is some rough pictures in terms of how our new buildings will be like. The BF website will give you more information on that. So, but from the donation channels that you will see, these are the facilities we are going to build, right? And we really appeal for the members to do your generous donation to us, so that we can quickly set up this building and quickly actually expand the BF activities as we move forward. Right? This is also the build for the next generation. I think that most of us are quite old already, so we probably by the time this building is up, we can retire already. Yeah, then the new generation will take over, right? Yeah. So that's what we are hoping for, right? To build for the next generation, not just for now, but actually also for the few generations, right? Okay. Is there anything else that you share?
Thank you, Brother TaI Wee. That's a very nice introduction to the Dharma Home website. Just to let everybody know again, it's bfdharmahome.org. So please do go on there, and there are many options to donate as well. And just to tell everybody a story about how small we are, I was once in a Sangha room chatting with my friends, and then I smashed open the door and I walked into the Dharma room and I said, "Hello, hello." And then, to my horror, there was a monk sitting in the Dharma hall holding a meditation class. So to prevent that from happening, we need more secluded rooms. Please donate generously to our building fund.
Yeah, thanks, Sister Kim. Yeah.
Maybe we can close off with some last words, and then we do the puja.
All right. So yeah, I think probably I've said enough. So I just want to wish all of you a Happy New Year, and hope that this new 2022 will bring all of us a good blessing, and then help us in our spiritual practice, right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Brother TaI Wee. Fantastic morning. Shall we now do the dedication of merits? In Anjali, let us invite all sentient beings to participate in our acquired merits. Etavata cha amhehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavata cha amhehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavata cha amhehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Dedication of merits. Let us dedicate the merits of participating in a wholesome Dharma activity to our departed relatives and friends. Idamena dina tu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idame nyatina hontu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idame nyatina hontu sukita hontu nyatayo. End of service dedication. I dedicate the merits which I have accumulated to the cultivation of my mind in order to bring happiness and benefits to all sentient beings. I dedicate the merits to my parents, children, spouse, relatives, friends, colleagues, and my adversaries, wishing them long life, good health, happiness, and prosperity. May we never part from the Triple Gem, and may we always walk the path towards enlightenment. Closing homage, let us pay respects to the Triple Gem. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamma Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you all for coming. Have a good Sunday.